In 2016, I gave a talk called The Perfect Storm. And I was mentioning three trends that at the time were on everyone's mind. The three trends were bifurcation of wealth, which means the huge concentration of wealth among a very small number of people, and the obliteration of the middle class. The second trend was the AI and automation taking jobs away. And the third trend was the fears around the massive coming climate-related migration, which we're going to see, which is estimated by some people to be 1.2 billion people. And my thesis was that those three trends are meeting at the same time. And as humanity, each one of those things by themselves is challenging, but all those things together are creating this massive shift that we have to deal with. Now, that was 7 years ago. And since then, many more fears have gotten into this queue. And I'm going to mention a few of them, and the reason is not to actually make us fearful, it's the opposite. It's to let us think about what is the nature of fear. Should we actually be fearful of anything, really, of those kind of general global things that we've been bombarded with all the time? So what's new this year? Since then, we have COVID, which we've all gone through. And COVID has created this panic of a few people that a huge pandemic is coming. It created conspiracy theories that brought a whole level of ridiculous concept in which one couldn't even imagine, like Son putting microchips in us to control our brains, which really sound like Son's bad dream, but people believe in it. It brought with us also something that is happening today in the world, which is real. It's the end of the bipolar world and the beginning of the multipolar world. It's the war in Ukraine, it's the increasing conflict in the Middle East, it's the fear around Taiwan and China. It's officials in Europe and the UK saying war is coming. In the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to fight Russia. This is really scary. We all lived in an age of peace. We're not used to wars, at least in this part of the world. The other thing which is obviously coming is there's a lot of fears about AI, and AI is going rampant and trying to control it. One more thing which is real, and actually some people mention it in this conference, is the idea of the Idiocracy. I don't know if you know what that is, but Idiocracy is a film that came, that was, I think about 20 years, 15 years ago, about someone who goes to the future. And in that future, everyone is dumb, because TV and entertainment made everyone so dumb that the average IQ is 70. And this guy who's quite average goes to the future and he becomes the king, because being average is really, really smart. Now, it sounds funny, but actually in the last few years, apparently IQ tests have been going down on average by 2 points every year. And a report that came out yesterday, I saw it in the Wall Street Journal, on LinkedIn, that scientific journals are becoming less rational. That even scientific publication is now starting to follow, trying to create newsworthy items as opposed to trying to follow the discourse. How do we actually do things well? So we live in a world that what we thought is the more technological and advanced we come, kind of the more intelligent we're going to be and how we apply ourselves, doesn't seem to go there. So all of those things sound really scary. And then above all of that, we got this concept we call climate anxiety. Now, climate anxiety is the fear about the future to do with climate. And I was quite shocked to read that among people that are below 24, 25, about 40% says we will not have children because we're worried about the future of the planet because of climate. And in the UK, for example, 60% of young people say we're going to have a terrible future. Things are just going to get better and worse for us. And it's depressing to read that the younger generation, which is normally the fountain of optimism, are the people that are most scared. And it really made me think, where does this come from, and is it real? And to try and think about it, let's go back to my original discussion in 2016, where we had all those fears. So bifurcation of wealth is still there, but no one is writing about it as much as they used to. It's just not as popular. So it didn't go away, but it's not as present as a fear. Automation, when I was doing the talk in 2016, we all thought that robots are going to go into factory floors and replace all blue-collar workers. They talked about 60 to 70% of blue-collar workers losing their job because of automation. Last week, they said that 40% of white-collar workers are going to lose their job because of generative AI. What does this tell us? It tells us that what we're afraid of at every given time just reflects our lack of knowledge. So what we don't know, we basically put in this category called fear. And even what we fear today, it's not that those things are going to happen. It's just that we don't know whether they're going to happen. But it's very hard for the human psyche to believe that all those things are going to go away, because we need an alternative. We need to look forward to something as people, as humans. We can't just say, well, we don't think it's going to be so bad and feel great about the world if we don't see a future that is great and gives us hope. And my personal commitment and job, in inverted commas, is to show why this hope is real and why we should spread it and live with that hope. And the reason why this hope is real is because of two trends which are happening right now in the world. The one trend is the understanding of demography and population dynamics. We've been living through most of our history with the fear that there are too many people in the world. Currently, world population is using 1.7 times the amount of resources the world can provide. Obviously, it's not sustainable. Eventually, we're going to run out of resources. But everyone that's looking at the news or reading knows that this is not really a problem anymore, because populations in the West are starting to plateau and decline. Populations in China is declining. In India, it's plateauing, and only certain parts in the developing world, it's still increasing. But all estimates say that between 2050 to 2070, the world is going to reach top population, which means afterwards there's going to be fewer and fewer people. Also, societies are going to change. You're going to have an inverted age pyramid where most of the people are going to be older. That means that we're not going to have the same kind of pressure that we have in society right now. Now, not all, some of the models say that population might increase, but this is really not a bad thing, because what they're saying is we're going to live longer and longer, which means that the world works, because if, with everything that happens, we live for longer because we provide health and we solve a lot of issues, it's not a problem we live for longer and there are more people, because we obviously sorted out the issues that are creating the scarcity that we're seeing now. The second trend, obviously, that we're all experiencing is the explosion of generative AI. Now, I'm not as bullish as some people on LLMs to be the panacea of all AI. You know, we've been in the last few years through a lot of ups and downs and a lot of fashions. We've been through metaverse, blockchain, cryptocurrency, quantum computers that are all real, but none of those promises really kind of bore fruit. It just became investment thing that everyone got really, really excited about. But AI is real, and generative AI is obviously real in its value. But the thing I want to mention is the concept of the singularity. Given the audience, I'm sure nearly everyone knows what a singularity is. It's a concept which is coined by Ray Kurzweil, and it describes that point where an intelligent AI system can start teaching itself how to get smarter. Now, currently, we teach AIs. So, in a sense, the pace of the development of AI is limited by how quickly we can feed it information and make it go faster. The minute the computer system can teach itself, it can do it as quickly as it wants. Some people say within 5 seconds it can be 10,000 times smarter. Now, we see with some of the systems it can take longer, but the idea is that the minute these points go through, we're going to have an intelligence that is much, much broader, deeper, and better than all human intelligence can provide. That at least is the concept of the singularity. I've also given talks on consciousness. So in my personal view, we are not going to see conscious computer systems, but that's part of a different discussion. Why is it good for us? It's good for us because the moment this moment happens, we're going to be able to create a cure for cancer. We're going to be able to find alternative energy sources, long-term batteries. We're going to basically reach a point which humanity has never experienced. We're going to experience the end of scarcity. And why is this important? Before why is it important, let's try and actually discuss when is it going to happen. So 5 years ago, most people believed this is singularity moment is going to happen about 2045. This year, some people, Elon Musk, for example, he believes it's going to happen in 6 months. But most people say 3 to 10 years' time, we're going to reach singularity. And in my estimate, it's going to take about 10 years for all of those benefits to really percolate to the world. Which means We are about 20 years away from being in a world where everything is accessible, energy is there, at least in terms of the capacity to create it, and health has gone through a major shift in terms of the capacity to sustain it and increase their health span. Our human psyche is not built for that. Our psyche was built in competitive environments where scarcity was the most important factor we had to deal with. Our whole attitude to life is around fears, and fears are there to protect us from scarcity of food, scarcity of security, all those things. When we go into this new phase of no scarcity, as humans, we also mean we have to shift our consciousness. We are suddenly in a new era where our potential now becomes the most important thing in our life, because we don't have to protect our existence per se. We have the time to be who we want to be because everything is available. Now it sounds like Disneyland, but this is what I believe we will experience in about 20, 25 years, if the world continues from a technological point of view where it is. What is the problem? The problem is geopolitics. The other smaller problem is unexpected weather events. But geopolitics is taking us into a really, really bad patch, which I think is going to last about 10 to 20 years, which is going to provide a lot of pressure. Each person in this room in the next 20 years is going to be impacted by a war or a conflict, whether they know it or not, and whether directly or indirectly. And my view and my mission and my ask and what I want to offer is that everyone that's sitting here has got an obligation. And the obligation is to build a bridge over that next 20 years so that we're going to get to this future of lack of scarcity. And there's an important point to do that, and this point is a bit controversial. If we look at the IPCC climate projections, we can see that nearly all lines more or less agree, all scenarios, until about 2050, within their margins of error. After 2050, different scenarios start to diverge, where the current middle scenario goes to a 2.7 increase by the end of the century. What it really means, it means that climate change is baked in for the next 25 years. Whenever people are going to jump up and down about net zero, and excuse me for being like that, paying 170 euros to offset your personal whatever, it's going to make zero difference to most people's lifetimes here, unless they're really, really young. All the sustainability stuff is important, but it's only going to make a difference in 50 years. That's the truth. You can't ignore that because this is the projection. And that means that we are mishandling the crisis in a very serious way. We have a chance now to help humanity to build resilience and go through this bridge to get us to the other side. But we are squandering that chance because we are taking our money and spending it on stuff that's important, but it's going to it actually ignores everyone's alive today. It says, we don't care what happens to you, we only care about your children and grandchildren. I think it's important to care about the future, but it's also important to take care of who's right now on the boat with us. And so I call this concept climate endurance. Climate endurance, and a similar goal was talking about having a startup to do with adaptation, resilience, and technology. It's a similar concept with the addition of AI as the extra element that can provide us the acceleration and the depth that we need in order to create that impact. And what I personally do is I talk to companies, medium, small to startups. I think the big companies have got their own team that do that, to help them understand, first of all, how they can use existing AI technology to improve their way of doing business in the climate sector, and how they can spread that idea of endurance. And this is also important for you personally. Every person here has to build their personal endurance. And the two simplest things to do in order to achieve that is build your personal network. And that means, and it's actually hard for us because a lot of us are people that go around the world a lot, and a lot of the network is virtual. You need to build real local networks. Where you live, you need to know people around you and you need to be connected to them, whether it's work, whether it's social, whatever it is. Because if things go out of hand, you need to know people. You can't pick up the phone and talk to a friend 2,000 miles away. It's not going to help you. The second thing, which I think is as important, is build physical and mental health and resilience. You have to be healthy and you have to actually have a strong mindset. Those two things, networks and personal health and resilience, are the lowest lying fruit when it comes to building your personal resilience. When it comes to business, it's actually not that dissimilar. It's about creating your network with the people you work with, whether it's your clients, or your suppliers, your employees, empowering them to understand what they need to do, making sure that you have what is needed to help you if things actually change, and using the best technology available to help you think about the future. So I talk to companies about using AI to understand how they go into this sector, and I'm also going to set up an association of companies that are going to pledge to put that together, the combination of adaptation, resilience, and AI, which I call climate endurance, for the good of humanity. And one of the most important things that a company can do, which they don't do, is actually educate their employees and everyone they know to say, give them the tools, because we are now responsible for who we are. Now, this sounds very, very heavy, but the truth is, this is like a Noah's Ark. We're going to be, I think, in choppy water for 20 years, but then we're going to reach the promised land, because technology will deliver its promise. We just have to get there. So my view is, we're going into a wonderful, spiritually elevated, scarcity-free future. It's the place we all want to be in. It's just our job to row the boat until we get there and help each other. And I hope you all have that same view that the future can be better. The future can be hopeful. And our personal responsibility is to help it make so. And so I just would like to leave with that note that I know things look tough at the moment, but this is a birth. And birth pangs are, I've got 3 children. 2 of them were natural birth. I was very happy to be a man when that happened, because I could not have handled the pain. I'm being honest about it. But birth can be very, very painful, but then you have a wonderful human being. And this is where we are. We're at the beginning of the birth of the new era, and we're all midwives. So my call is, let's all be together and be the best midwife we can be, so that the birth is going to be as painless and as efficient as possible, so the baby is the baby we can share and be proud of. Thank you.